What's going on? Welcome to episode 27 of IntheAMwMC. This is your host, MC. There's been a lot going on. I moved around recently, and that was really time consuming, but very rewarding at the end of the day. And so we're recording from a new spot for the first time. Super excited. It's 5 a.m. in the morning. We up and at it. We have a lot to discuss today across all realms. And I'm gonna just get into it with the NFL. So the New York Giants obviously let go of Brian Daboll. Everybody knows I'm a Giants fan. People have been asking me from all walks of life how I feel about this. Like literally everybody's like, yo, how do you feel about this? And I'm glad they're asking me because I definitely can fix the Giants at this point. There's too much talent on the roster to not produce results. They've blown double-digit leads pretty consistently, 3 or 4 games this season alone. Haven't really been utilizing Dexter Lawrence the right way. Brian Burns is having a career year despite all of the forces that are working against him, i.e. Shane Bowen. I think that Bowen probably should have went first because the defense is abysmal. The offense looks good with Jackson Dart, but Jackson Dart has been in concussion protocol 4 times. The more that, you know, the more that you live through certain things that are directly related to this concussion stuff, the more we kind of have better judgment and better discernment about what's actually happening in front of us. I think that with Dart and with Scatterboo, like they're both guys that are very talented football players, and I don't think that them necessarily playing without using their heads as battering rams is going to make them worse football players, but they're going to have to find a way to do that consistently because right now both of them, they're both a couple of head injuries away from not playing anymore. I mean, I'm being completely serious. And it sucks to say that as a fan of the game and considering these guys are so young and so exciting. But at the same time, it like Russell Wilson is a guy who is still in the league right now for a reason, obviously being productive and being in MVP talks multiple times, 10-time Pro Bowler, but he protects himself. He's protected himself to the point that he can still, you know, run at a high level and he tries to get out of bounds as much as he can. And I mean, these guys are all in the middle of the field, just letting themselves get teed off on. And that's normally to me where a lot of the most avoidable big collisions happen. I think that there's a lot of big collisions in the backfield that are almost destined to happen when you have anywhere from, 10 to maybe 15 guys just like in a small little area in the box. Someone's gonna fall on someone and that. Things happen on the edge of the field, like towards the sidelines. But I think right in the middle of the field, a lot of that stuff is avoidable. But guys gonna go down and certain dudes get good angles and it becomes a whole thing. But the New York Giants let go of Daboll. 4 seasons, I think he had with the team, coach of the year at one point, playoff victory. Definitely something the Giants had not had consistently for a while. And we still don't have it consistently, playoff victories, because that was one victory. But it was versus a very solid Vikings team. I think that team won 13 or 14 games. Um, it sucks to see Daboll go. I think that overall his tenure will be remembered fondly just because he did nurture some positive talent. He did take swings at changing the culture of the team. I think that ultimately, certain stuff just got in the way. Like Wink Martindale was a DC that was beloved, and something happened between him and Daboll. Their relationship went sour, and this is obviously all alleged, right? But because at the end of the day, nobody really knows what happened except for Mr. Dayball and Mr. Martindale himself, who's at Michigan right now. So I'm a guy who's going to support whoever's at Michigan. So I support Wink right now. I think he's like probably like more of an old school guy maybe, and Dayball is probably a mix, and it just doesn't mix. I mean, some dudes just don't gel from the coaching standpoint at the National Football League level. And you got to think when they're making so much money, when it's their livelihood, when they come from different philosophies, like sometimes it's just hard to marry them. Especially when people are there for short periods of time. Martindale was there for 2 years, I believe, maybe three, before him and Dayball's relationship just went south. Joe Shane. is probably on his last days as the New York Giants GM because he's drafted some of these dudes, like a Kadarius Toney who ended up flaming out even though he had one career game. I he did not draft DeAndre Baker's. That was like earlier, I believe, but he also drafted Evan Neal. I mean, there's tons of dudes up and down, who ended up kind of being waste of picks, who we haven't utilized and who we've seen, other teams get value from guys who are around the same area in the exact same drafts. It's really disheartening as a fan to see that. I think that when Neighbors comes back, that the question really becomes, how much do you like Wan'Dale Robinson? Because I think that there's usage for him in the system, but I also feel like it's got to be Neighbors, Wanda Robinson on a cheaper contract than you currently have Darius Slayton. I think that before the season is over, it would have made sense to trade one of Slayton or Hyatt because both of them have value and both of them, I think, are in a position to leave the team this summer. Darius Slayton just got engaged to Anna Hall, uh, decorated heptathlete in the national, international track sphere. And so he's going to want as much money as humanly possible, right? That's on the New York Giants. I think he would have looked great in some Eagles, some Eagles colors, or something. Like with all due respect to Slade, get rid of him. I mean, you see what he's got going on in these games. He's dropping footballs. He's supposed to be a team captain. He wears a C on his chest, and he can't catch a go route. It's disgusting football. It really is. And he's climbing up the list. He's passing some iconic names like. I think he passed like Hakeem Nicks or something. Like he's passing some of these names in the franchise books. And right now he's just leaving a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths because he's dropping footballs and he's attributing to losing games right now. When in reality, with Neighbors out and with him having a C on his chest once again, he should have assumed wide receiver one duties and he should be out there making real plays. But right now it's a lot of the tight ends, it's a lot of Wan'Dale Robinson, it's a lot of the running backs, Tracy and Scatterbo. Um, but I definitely, I'm definitely like a Theo Johnson believer. I always believed in him. I'm glad he's making plays for the New York Giants. But it's interesting to see what this season is going to become with about 7-ish weeks to go. And with the Giants having no playoff hope in sight, what are you trying to do for the rest of the season? You have Mike Kafka. Are you giving him a real shot? Or is this a situation where he's just at the helm of a sinking ship? You also have Jameis Winston, you get a true evaluator of how much he still has. He can be a backup, but can he be a starter even for a short amount of time? Because even though you don't trade him this season, because you can't anymore, you think about trading him next season if it makes sense to possibly if you're making a playoff run and it makes sense. If Russell Wilson doesn't get traded because he absolutely should have too, right? Like again, I think Joe Shane should have been let go for failure to trade Hyatt and or Slayton or Russell Wilson. Tons of dudes that should have been traded. Daboll should have talked to Mike Kafka at some point and got him to use Dexter Lawrence at his natural position. He's lined up at nose, least at his as at, like this is the least amount of time he's ever lined up at nose. And he's all pro nose. He's not an all pro three tech. He's not an all pro four eye. Like he is a nose guard. Abdul Carter has half a sack. I think that's a malpractice. There's no way you have an athlete like that. And, people are going to talk about he has these pressures, and I think he's had some forced fumbles and fumble recoveries. That's really good, and those are good stats. But at the end of the day, sacks are what put money on the table. Um, but yeah, that's my spiel about the New York Giants. I believe we have the Pack Attack this Sunday coming up. This episode is going to be out on Sunday, so on Sunday the 16th. But this Sunday coming up, we have the Green Bay Packers who, acquired Michael Parsons, have Jordan Love, have decent receivers, have a solid defense, great coaching. Not gonna be an easy game either way. So hope we can put that one out. The Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots are both on fire in the AFC. Both of them have similar teams, in my opinion. I don't think Travion Henderson is the back that Jonathan Taylor is by any means, but his ability to be a threat in the backfield, whether it's catching the ball or running the football, has changed their offense and has allowed Drake May to play first and second read football. I think that Drake May is a better quarterback than Daniel Jones, but I also think that Daniel Jones is a better quarterback than people were giving him credit for. I've definitely, let my emotions get the best of me, talking about DJ a couple times, but I mean, he's a, I've never doubted his like athletic ability. I mean, he's 6'5", 240. When he got into the league, he was maybe 230, but like he's a big dude. He runs hard. He's the first. I watched his first game when I was in college. I remember watching it on when in our room. Me and my dog Makai. He played that game against the Buccaneers, and I remember it was like right before I had like some meeting or something, and it was on a Sunday, obviously, and I just couldn't stop thinking about the game. I was sitting in the meeting like, dang, like Dan Jones might be him. Um, and I have a Daniel Jones jersey thanks to my good dog Ringer. So like I like Daniel Jones, but Drake May to me it just has that a little bit more of that it factor, a little bit more of the um understanding of team and purpose within what Mike Vrabel is trying to do for the Patriots. 9-2, the Pats are. I think that what they have, if it's sustainable, they're going to find out pretty soon because they've been playing some pretty bad teams. But Stephon Diggs is a leader on that team. And they have, Gonzo on the outside. I mean, I think Christian Gonzalez is as good as any DB in the league, and anybody. Pat Surtain might be a step above him, but I think any other DB, Pat Surtain and Kyle Hamilton, I think are in their own stratosphere. The NFC is wide open, but Seattle looks really, really good. The Seattle Seahawks, they don't they don't have these names that pop off the page at the receiver position. Outside of Jackson Smith and Jigba, he was out for a game, and they posted, the receiving targets, and they were like, these guys are not going to catch any passes, and they just went nuclear. All of their dudes show up in dependable ways. Their offense looks a lot like the Lions when the Lions first got rolling, last year when they got Laporta mixed in a lot more. Because you see tight end targets, you see Arroyo touching the rock. Sam Darnold is looking good, and all in all, I mean, Kubiak has those guys rolling, but Philadelphia is always going to be a contender. And it really depends on Sirianni and Hurts at the end of the day, right? They went back and forth with the media about a 4th and 6, Hurts audibles to a kill shot. I think Sirianni probably wanted, knowing Sirianni probably wanted a low concept, probably like a hitch, maybe a bench route. But Hurts. Hurts has got to deliver to his guys at the end of the day. And if as long as he's doing that, everything else will take care of itself. The offensive line is too good. Even though Saquon Barkley is an astronomically good football player, anybody who's back there is going to get positive yards. Like if for some reason Saquon's injured or he's not running real well, and they just do design runs where it hurts, he's going to get yards. The tush push is here to stay. They're not really getting called against it. That's just going to be what it is. So always have to look out for Philly. But NFL is really exciting this season so far. Lots of great storylines, and hopefully we're gonna start covering just a little bit more now that it's time to sit down and get behind the mic. MLB, Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh. I was actually, when I originally wrote this, because I kind of sketch up what I'm gonna do for episodes, and I sketched up 27, kind of sat with it, and then came back, and now I had to redo it. I was gonna talk about, their race and my argument for Judge, but the people spoke. Judge only had 4 more first place than Riley. So I think that at the end of the day, like Mariners fans have to understand it was close, but that's Aaron Judge, man. Like look at the material. This dude is leading the MLB in batting average and had like 55 dingers. Like he's look at what's going on. 21 go ahead home runs. I mean, 10.1 wins above replacement. All rise. Shohei's in uncharted waters. He won again. Can I be surprised? No. But I thought I saw a funny picture on Twitter of Juan Soto, and I can't remember who the other finalist was on the left of Shohei, but it was like talking about how they was upset. They was upset because they're like, these people wasting my time. I thought that was funny. Emmanuel Clase got wrapped up with the betting scandal. And there was a game against the Yankees that was brought up, and he essentially was supposed to throw a ball, and I think dude swung, and you can hear him screaming the F word. The baseball got the most live mics out of all of the sports. Like I'm not really sure why, but baseball the mic be super live. Um, but yeah, Clase, he's going out bad, and I think it's crazy because I remember at one point, um, he was frying us. I think it was in the playoffs. Yeah, he was frying us in playoffs, and I was just like, bro, who is this dude, Emmanuel Clase? And he was like one of the best closers in the MLB, but he was frying us, and just to come to find out, he's taking these side bets to throw balls, and then he messed up and threw some strikes, and people always ask like, why are these people who are making so much money doing this? Why they, because most of the time the return is not as much as their salary or whatever, and it's just because they can. It's that simple. It's called free will. Like, and yeah, people like power and people like money and all of that, but it's because they can. And some people are addicted to gambling too. That's also an aspect. I don't necessarily, I don't want to assume every single player in that's a professional athlete that gets caught in a gambling scandal is addicted to gambling because I don't believe that that's true. And it narrows the complexity of the what's at stake with what these guys are doing. I mean, it's all a song and dance, and the betting is an aspect of the song and dance. And you at home have been made to believe for years, like you're watching games that are just guys making an honest living, right? That's what people always talk about, like, oh man, making an honest living, like, and some of them are not. Some of them are making a misleading living, and I mean, it's not a slight to him, right? But I think that because I love sports documentaries. I think that Chris Herron's story is a perfect example that you don't actually know what you're seeing in its totality, right? He talked about a specific game in the documentary that they did for him, how he drove 30 minutes before the game. And you can't do this now, right? You just get spotted too easily. Or somebody would find your Venmo or something, but he drove to pick up opiates from his dealer and he took them right before a game and he had like a 30 clip. That's crazy. And if you're a fan at that time, you have no idea. Like you're just like, I love Chris Herron and he played such electric basketball. His son used to beat up on our high school team. I think I talked about this on here before. I definitely talked about this on the Polar podcast, but um, I remember my sophomore year, they had this team we played, Tabor Academy. They had his son, and his son at the time was averaging like 25 or 20, like 22, 25. But he's put up numbers in NEPSAC Class A, great basketball. Anything in the NEPSAC is honestly great basketball. I mean, Terrence Clark, God rest his soul, he played in the NEPSAC. Um, Wabi Sabiti, he played there. David Duke, who played for the Brooklyn Nets, he played Double A. He played for Cushing Academy. Um, who else can I name off the top? It was definitely one or two more that are slip. Oh, Nerlens Noel. He played for Tilton Academy as Double A. Wayne Tilden Jr. as well played for Tilton Academy. So yeah, I say all that to say that, and then I didn't even get into any of the AAA. Like, that's Brewster and all them cats and Northfield, Mount Hermon. But the point is, all right, to bring it back, to bring it back, because I'm sitting here like, why am I talking about this? But the point is to bring, because I'm talking about Chris Herron. All right. So, but the point is to bring it back to Herron, and is that as a fan, there is a barrier between what you see and what is the reality is, and the betting scandal is just another chapter in that long book, right? Like, just like there's tons of players who get arrested the night before games or the day of games, and you never know. And this happened to somebody on my track team in college, and my son, he got booked up, and I shout out my man because I hope he sees this. Is my dog. He got hemmed up, and then he slid to the track meet, and then he won. And at that particular meet was being streamed on ESPN and ESPN2, in flow track, and they interviewed him because he won, and he's just sitting there cool as a cucumber doing the interview. And if you're at home, you're just like, man, look at that young man, like, and you have no idea what just happened in dude life in the last 24 hours. So Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones, these guys getting hemmed up in this betting ring or in this NBA gambling scandal. Dejounte Porter, you know, these everyone has a variety of circumstances, but these dudes are all gonna get hit bad. And it sucks, especially a guy like Chauncey. That's a big name guy. I think Chauncey Billups is either gonna soften the blow for everybody else, or he's gonna get a different sentence because he's a dude that has like real, more staying power. Like Damon Jones, he was a good player, but he's not like as known of a name as Chauncey Billups. And Terry Rozier, I just feel bad because he's second generation NBA, and the dude went to military school. You would think like he's boom boom boom, but I kind of saw when he ended up on the Hornets, like he's supposed to be the vet for like Miles Bridges and Melo and Kai Jones, these guys who are out here just doing anything. Like they had no role models, they had no vets. Like to be honest, the Charlotte Hornets right now is crazy, but they're playing well because Con Knipple and Ryan Kalkbrenner came to the team as like mature younger guys. Like those are two guys who have good heads on their shoulders. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's not what y'all think. It's not a racial thing. It's not because they got some good straight and narrow white dudes, but like, at the end of the day, those dudes are like seriously like great guys. And you can tell there's a sense of maturity and a sense of competitiveness that comes with like Knipple, for example. I mean, he just put up the 30 clip and he almost had a triple double the other night. And he hosted the whole team at his house in Milwaukee. Like that's a very mature, you know, like I can see John Shire, being a coach that prioritizes maturity because Cooper Flag has that maturity. Cam Boozer had that maturity going in, which obviously led to him being recruited by Shire, but you can see it in games, and he just had a 30 clip as well. His brother as well. Like there's a certain level of maturity that those dudes brought that Terry Rozier was not able to bring, Kelly Oubre was not able to bring, and that's why those dudes don't stick around. Like once those guys get to 28, 29, 30, and they want the organization wants them to be more like mentoring type guys, but they're just chasing contracts. It's like there's different priorities, or they're single, or they're juggling women around and children and child support. Like there's different priorities. Um, but that's why sometimes it's refreshing to have a young guy that has his priorities in order because, you know, like I mean, Kalkbrenner just had a daughter and he's playing for more than himself. Um, the poker stories like with the mafia, that stuff really blew my mind. I was actually on the bus. We were going to a football game, and the some of the other coaches was looking at this stuff about this betting ring. We were just like, man, this is crazy. I mean, the mafia got them dudes with 3D glasses and looking at the tables, and they had the rigged games that they was just spitting out 200 bands plus from these people and extorting the mess out of them. I mean, this is really some high level stuff, and I'm interested to see just how far people are willing to go with the trials and stuff. Because I feel like if I'm one of them dudes that got hemmed up and the plea deal is decent, I'm taking the plea. Like I don't think it's worth the fact that or going to trial just because unless you feel like you really have a leg to stand on, because they're definitely going to try to make an example out of y'all. Like this is the biggest test of Adam Silver's young career as a commissioner in the NBA because every commissioner is bound to engage in scandal because of the people that you're dealing with. You're dealing with these high profile people that do God knows what because they can and because they have access to do God knows what. And Silver has to really put his feet down in some kind of way, whether that's one way or another. Like he has to sit here and he has to testify before Congress. He has to face the music. He has to implement something to make the game retain integrity because the average fan doesn't think the game has integrity, and the average fan is pushed to bet themselves. But it's like the players are betting themselves. So how do we know the players in the league aren't in cahoots? Like, how do we know that's not the third piece of this? The players, the league, and the mafia. I mean, them dudes, oh, oof, Jesus. Shifting gears to Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo and Victor Wembanyama. So these three guys, all foreign. I think you can also throw in Shea in there, right? Four of these guys who are foreign, and they are just destroying basketball right now. The reason I don't include Luca in this list is just because of his inefficiency from range. Luca shoots the most threes in the league, and he's shooting 29%, 30%, which is pretty abysmal in a league where guys at this point in the season are still shooting in the mid to low 50s. They're shooting 50, 52, 51, 50, 49, 48, 47. Like there's a lot of guys in that range right now. And Luca is shooting more threes than all of them. And he is shooting again 29 or 30% from three. So that's the only reason I don't include him in this, but it is good to see him up flying up and down the court and dunking a basketball again. It's refreshing. It's different from recent years. But Nikola Jokic is seriously playing some ridiculous basketball. Like every time he touches the ball, I get scared because I know the ball's going in. I just don't know how. I just don't know what he's about to do. And he shoots a very efficient three right now. I believe he's one of the guys that's shooting in that range I just mentioned. But his 2-point baskets are so calculated. His footwork, he's like a ballerina, and he is 6'11", 280, and he just moves around so well. His conditioning is ridiculous. He helps maximize the players around him. Like one thing you can never say about Nikola is that he's never played with the guy who's a legit, you know, like demon, and he hasn't unlocked that in him. Like he's helped make Aaron Gordon what he is right now. He helps Jamal Murray play better basketball because Jamal Murray, as the fact that he's been an all-star, I think 0 times or 1 time, but is one of the bigger playoff risers in the NBA. It's pretty interesting. But he was there right, feeding Murray when he had his 50 ball against the Los Angeles Lakers in the bubble. So Jokic is really playing some different basketball. Giannis, again, to think about inefficiency, right? With Luca, like Giannis is not necessarily inefficient, but his usage rate is so high. Like he's shooting 27 shots a game or something bizarre like that. So of course he's going to get 46 or 45 or 35 or whatever it is. His game winner was pretty impressive though. I still think he just chucked it up and just said, "F it." Like I hope this joint go in. But I think that his game winner was pretty impressive. So you got to give him credit for that. How far can they go? I don't really know. I've talked about before the fact that I don't really believe in Kyle Kuzma, but he has played some decent basketball, some really high level, high decent basketball in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. So you have to ask yourself to like how far can Kyle Kuzma himself go? Um, but Victor Wembanyama, he's a filthy guy. Like the stuff that I would see when I watch Victor is something like I've never seen in my life. And that's why the Spurs can win the championship this year. They have so many good basketball players. Dalen Harper, Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell, like Keldon Johnson, De'Aaron Fox, like their team is actually goofily good. It's stupidly nice. And with Victor playing the stuff that like playing the ball he's playing is really hard to play, offense if you're another team. Steph Curry needs a Herculean effort to beat them every time. Yeah, they just beat them. The Warriors literally beat them tonight. But Steph Curry I think he had 49 or 46. He needed every bit of that to beat them because they were they only had at the end of the day only had like 110. It was like 110 to 108. So they're not putting up points like that in a league where dudes are putting up 120, 130, 140. They wasn't even putting up points like that. So I think the Spurs have a legit shot. Like you can bookmark it right now. The Spurs have a legit shot to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, to get the Western bid for the finals, and to beat whoever shows up on the Eastern side, who will most likely be. I have no idea. Maybe the Celtics, maybe the Bucks, maybe I'm trying to think who else looks good out there right now. Maybe the Miami Heat. Norman Powell looks good, and so does Bam. Kello Ware, it's possibly, right? 'Cause Stephen Curry and Under Armour parted ways, and I don't really want to talk too much about this, but I just wanted to touch on it because I cannot believe that Under Armour would fumble like this so poorly. Steph Curry is Under Armour, and that being said, Under Armour has done nothing to improve themselves as a brand at all in the last 5, 7 years. Like nothing. They have not made any attempt, and this is while New Balance is resurging and establishing himself as a basketball shoe. as Adidas and Jordan and Nike continue to outsell all their competitors a trillion fold, you know, yeah, Under Armour just dropped the ball in ways that one could never really imagine. I still have somewhere, I think it's in my our people apartment in New York. It's the clutch fit drives. He wore those, and those were kind of what the Curry ones were styled after. But he wore those in maybe 2013, 2014. I still remember that 55-point game he had at the Garden to me really solidified him, and then he just put big moment after big moment. And during all of that time, Under Armour stock had gone through the roof. But then they did again nothing to capitalize on it, nothing to appease, not appease, but nothing to really work with Curry in the ways that showed that they understood that he is their LeBron, he is their world, like he is, but he's also something different. Like no one has ever done the stuff that he's done, and they have not again marketed like in a way that makes sense to that. Thank y'all for rocking with me on episode 27. The final thing I would like to say is rest in peace to Coach Beam from Laney College. He was featured on, season 5 of Last Chance U. And, people talk about senseless violence is perhaps a term that we are as a society desensitized to, but this is the definition of senseless violence. Um, Coach B changed the lives of player after player after player, and he did so in a way that was hard-nosed but fair, that was leading with love, and it was leading with respect, and it was leading with a firmness that affirmed his belief in his athletes as human beings and as men. It's really unfortunate because I just explained this to somebody, but on Monday, I believe he just passed away, but on Monday of this past week, I was just talking about how Last Chance U is a wild show because it's kind of blowing up on TikTok right now. And seasons 1 to 4 are really just shock value uh dumps by Netflix. I think that they're decently well done, especially like I think season 1, when you watch it, especially in isolation, is incredibly well done for a season of television. And I think that season 4 is really well done as well. But I think they again at some point, the money talks, and I think that Netflix was like, all right, like let's just highlight as much of the negative stuff as we can because, for example, Isaiah Wright's story is really tragic, right? Like Netflix is highlighting his entire breakdown in season 2 that is really a result of malpractice by Buddy Stevens and his entire staff. Isaiah Wright is screaming in pain because he has a physical injury. I believe he injured his leg, but he also had clear concussive symptoms. And Stevens said he was quitting on his team, and then he put him back in the game, but then he got hit, and then he took him out, and then he cussed him out, and then he had no offers, and that's not a coincidence, right? Like all it takes is the head coach to say, "Hey, take that kid's off." And this is the older days. This is not the NIL days, right? As much, but this is 2000 to 17, maybe 16, maybe even 15. This is a while ago, and so he is essentially using Isaiah Wright for all he is. And for the first season, he made a great little storyline. But in the second season, when stuff hit the fan, they just threw him to the side. But in season 5, Coach Beam, he had the moment with Dior Scott where he was having a panic attack on the field, and he called his wife, and he had his wife talking through the breathing, and he helped out. I think the big dog, they had this giant kid. I believe he was like Polynesian or Samoan. His name was Nu, and Nu had a baby, and he was helping Nu with the baby. And I mean, he had this white kid RJ, and I mean, he just yeah, Coach Beam was really a special guy. To all of the people in Laney and Oakland. And it's really senseless violence that he was taking. I think he was 66 years old. He was also the athletic director at Laney College. And it's truly heartbreaking. But that's the end for me here. That's episode 27 in the AM. We're gonna get back on it. Appreciate y'all.